Hey everyone, welcome into another artist talk here with Swords and Plowshares. We have an artist who wasn't able to make our last artist talk due to some unfortunate safety stuff. They just had a COVID test, and so we're thankful that they're feeling fine, but they're still able to make it here today to share a little bit about their work before the closing of our current show, The World We Need. I can introduce you, but I think better just let you introduce yourself. Maybe share your name, got pronouns, org you work with, or dive right into talking about your work.
Okay, great. So my name is Melinda Rushing. I actually go by Melinda Ruth. And My pronouns are she, her. I don't, I guess the organization that I am a part of, do a lot with, will be the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club. And so I am a visual artist, and my medium of choice is, I'm a sketch artist. I'm a sketch artist and a printmaker. The printmaking is like something new that I've jumped into, but um, I create lino cuts. And so, but my kind of base, I guess, or where I started was in sketching, and I do figure drawing as well. And so I actually in undergrad, I minored in studio art, and that's kind of how I was exposed to a more like organized art technique. Well, that's not. I guess I got exposed to a lot of art techniques, but drawing is what I really took to. And so I just kind of continued focusing on that throughout my studies. I didn't really pursue anything after that when it comes to art for several years because I really didn't know much about the business side of art and like really what an artist could do outside like teaching at an elementary school. And so I went down actually a different route, more like academic route, and I got a master's in social work and practiced for several years, and then now I have a PhD in public health, and that's with Robinson, Michigan. But during my public health, during my doctoral studies, I actually jumped back into art because I needed an outlet, but I don't know, had this like surge of like self confidence, I guess. And I was like, can I make it as an artist? So during my third year in my program, I started really pursuing it. So I've been pursuing it for about 3 years now, consistently. And in that time, I have grown a lot. Because I think as an entrepreneur, because as artists we are that. And then also I've grown a lot when it comes to my technique and just how I conceptualize my the ideas or messages or whatever that I'm trying to do. Because although I would say I'm a sketch artist that does figure drawing, just putting like a body on a page on paper is not what I want to do. I want there to be a message behind it. So in these last 3 years have been really like kind of expanding and growing my skills. And when I moved up to Michigan, I took a figurative drawing course at CCS, and that was like, I don't know, amazing. And it it like stretched me so much. And the faculty he was great. And so from there, I've just kind of have been building on this skill and just seeking out more opportunities to grow as an artist, technique wise, but also business wise too.
Awesome. Well, I'm curious, like, just of all you were kind of throwing out there, if your research work and some of your academic work factors into like the message you want to get across or some of the like content of your artwork.
Mhm. So I would say when it comes to so my research focus is in sickle cell, and I haven't really like done anything to really, I don't know, speak to the issues that population faces. But I would say just from my experience as like being a woman of color, and then also from my social work experience and what I really saw in my community, that is what I think I draw more on when it comes to conceptualizing the pieces, and addressing a lot of the issues um, that I saw while I was in the field. And I think like uh, I feel like before I really was practicing social work, I kind of knew of these things, but I didn't know the full like range of like systemic race. Well, I knew about racism, but just like systemic racism and the impact on like a more macro level, not just individual level, but interaction person to person. And I saw this as a social worker. And so now, and then also just like a lot of mental health things and just the impact of those. those unfortunate situations on a person's just quite quality of life.
Yeah.
So a lot of that informs or kind of drives the messages that I am passionate about and that I want to present in my pieces.
And what would you say, like, kind of is like really, I know your piece in the, you have your piece in the show, you could speak to that, but like,
Okay.
what's the kind of message that you really are looking to get across these days? I mean,
Yeah, so the piece that was in the show is called Don't Run. And this was actually I think very different from the kind of the things that I tackle typically. So a lot of what I guess the rest of my work really has been not the rest, majority of it has been um kind of addressing the black woman's experience and like just the stigma, not stigma, but like the I guess the messages or expectations of like being invincible or being a strong black woman or like don't show your emotions, things like that. And like how um when you have like this pressure of like having to have it all together in every sector of your life, meaning when it comes to your family, when it comes to your career, when it comes to your friends, like there's no outlet for vulnerability. And or I guess I shouldn't say outlet for there's no outlet for like you to really live and have like a full rich life experience, because you can't show any vulnerability, and vulnerability is a huge part of life. Like it lets people know when you're not doing, or if you need help, or and everybody at some point needs help, but it just seems like the messages, especially me being like very career driven, I feel like the higher I went, the greater the expectation was to be flawless. And that's just not the reality because regardless of what stage or whatever I accomplished, I am flawed and I have I have challenges that I have to face and deal with. And but anyway, so that's kind of main like large was it that's mainly the messages that I've kind of been portraying in my pieces because my hope is to not only like shine light on these things, or not shine light, but that not only like really put them in the viewer's face, but also give this sense of normalizing, like allowing yourself to be like to live and like have these common human experiences as a black woman. Um, but then also like give these kind of encouraging kind of undertones in the pieces as well. But with this piece that I did for this show, it was different because I wanted to address the issue of just like the really just the murdering of black people by police, and specifically just how vulnerable black children are to this, regardless of female or male. I think even worse when it comes to um, young boys, just how you're perceived in a way that's a threat, whether you're doing something or not. And so in this piece, I wanted to zoom in from a perspective to where you kind of got drawn into the child and the fear that they're experiencing, but them trying to could like keep themselves together from a child's perspective. And so keep themselves together. And I title it "Don't Run" because that's what we're taught. It's kind of like don't run, do what you're told. Because if you run, you could get shot. If you don't do what you're told, you could get shot. If you do what you're told, honestly, you could get shot. But it's like, how do I minimize the threat as the best as I can? But in this image, you can see this child is very young, and they're having to deal with this very adult, really not even adult. It's just a horrific reality that they're having to deal with, and they're trying to handle it as best as they can because they know that there's a real threat and they don't want to lose their life. But also there's a sense of being alone as well because even I mean we see like if their parent came, it still could be a threat. They still could like something bad still could happen to them because just the reality is that Black lives just are not, or yeah, Black lives just are not valued or as highly as others. And so that was kind of what I really wanted to capture in this piece. Um, and and so in doing that, again, this is different from what I'm usually talking about, but I feel like it's an issue that really it really is very unsettling, and I just hate that there's enough that has to go on when it comes to our community and just the challenges from systemic racism. but for there to be a real threat to your life that's constantly there, and like the person that's supposed to be protective of you, I mean like the police, is actually a threat. So like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, you know? And it just my hope was to like kind of drum up these thoughts, and also like kind of pull on the heartstrings of the viewer to feel like this fear that Black children have to deal with, regardless whether you're in like the suburbs or the city. Like it's there because we're perceived as a threat, and we're perceived as dangerous just because of the way that we look.
Yeah. No, I mean, just thank you for sharing so like directly and honestly. I think like that's something that a lot of folks sometimes are pushed to like step around or avoid, and it's also not easy to do. So yeah, I mean, I think both with your artwork and just right now, um, yeah, it's an important message, but it's also a difficult message sometimes to like repeat over and over again in a system where it's not really respected. Um, yeah, have you gotten what is your audience or what is your interaction with your audience been like? What feedback have you gotten on your work? Do folks sometimes respond negatively? Do you get mostly like positive feedback, or folks kind of like, do you feel like you're communicating effectively?
I think some pieces I communicate effectively. I
I
think in
think
other
most of us, it's a good day, bad
man,
day
I
sort of
missed
thing.
it. Yeah. Oh, or like, because I've had pieces to where maybe somebody's like telling me whatever they think about it. And I'm like, man, that was not where I was trying to go with that piece. But I was with this one, and again with the one I was talking about, like it's called the vulnerability series, the one addressing it's black women, the expectations that's placed on us. But in those pieces, I've had positive feedback. And but the feedback has come in when okay, I say this. I really haven't had any negative feedback from any of my pieces. But when I do get the feedback, the ones that mean the most to me or that really kind of affirm me is when somebody has an emotional response to the piece. And so whether it be like the comments, a piece that I posted recently on Instagram, and it was an image of like you see a woman from the perspective of a reflection in a mirror, and she's crying, and then it says, "Don't let them see you cry." Or sorry, the title is "Don't let them see you cry." And then somebody had put a comment on there of like I think it was like a heart and then like a tear or like the face where they're crying, and it was a black female, and it's like that's a success for me because you felt what I was trying to say, or you felt the I don't know, you were able to relate to that message of like having to hold it in and hide your emotions. And so with this one, I did have a one person that said that this kind of kept talking about how like they wanted to get this child or hold this child, and so like those, I'm happy because I want the viewers to come into the piece that and just go on through the experience that I'm trying to give them in it. And maybe that sounds like too dramatic, but that's the goal. Like a pretty
Yeah.
piece is great, um, but my message is not message. It's like pretty, like that's I mean, like I'm not trying to put something that's just pretty out there or beautiful. I want that, but I also want you to resonate with what I'm doing. So like those responses, the few times that I have someone that says like or share that they've had like an emotional response, it's affirming and kind of pushes me to keep going where I'm going and keep doing what I'm doing, because it's effective, even if it's now I don't have a huge following, so this is not like thousands of people or anything like, but the few that do let me know that or show or respond in that way, it's good. I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done anything that's super controversial though. So maybe there's like when I do figure drawing, there's a lot of nudity, but it's not vulgar. So I did like with that one, I've had people ask like, why are you or I have one person ask me, do you feel uncomfortable drawing a naked women? And I was like, no, like just for me, I'm not doing this as a like a way to, it's not a turn on to me. Like I'm creating a piece. Like I'm drawing a figure and the body is just body is the body or whatever. Like I'm not looking at it in that way. Um, and I've had another person that kind of commented like, why do you keep doing like why are you drawing like naked women? It's like I'm not drawing naked women. I guess there's a purpose behind it. And I'm using nudity to show to represent that vulnerability. But I guess in those situations, it allows me to have a deeper conversation when people do maybe not they're uncomfortable with seeing that, which I think is also I guess that's the win too, because again, vulnerability is can be uncomfortable, and so I guess I guess that's not really negative feedback. It's just they are having a response, just in a different way that I didn't expect.
Yeah, well, I wasn't trying to get you to reveal any negative feedback you'd ever gotten. I was just curious, like you were sharing kind of what you were trying to communicate, seeing
Yeah.
how that was connecting with your audience. Yeah, I think sometimes comments like that, especially around like nudity and art, are I think there's stuff around like who is doing the drawing. Sometimes like I grow tired of people who share some of my demographics continuing to like repeatedly portray naked women as though that's like white men portraying naked women is this huge next step in art. I don't really know about that, but but yeah, I think that also reveals a lot about the people who are saying that of like the only way you can see a naked form is sexually, or the only way you can experience sexuality is as like consumption and sort of like this negative experience as opposed to like yeah, you can recognize something like somebody is attractive and that they're naked and you can still gain more from the image uh
Hmm.
than that level. You can move on and like progress into your psychology.
Yeah, yeah,
um
yeah.
yeah, well, and I think like it sounds like your art has been sort of like the a mixture of like a message you're sharing out with people as well as like what you're kind of like drawing from your own experiences. It sounds like it's been pretty healing in some ways, or at least like a space for you to like kind of find some solace from a world not necessarily like living up to expectations we should have of it. Is that
Yeah.
true? Or yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, yeah, it is. The healing part is like a journey. But
Mhm.
I think that expressing this in an indirect way, or expressing these things that I'm going through or thoughts I have or experiences that I've had, in an indirect way, it it does allow me to kind of I don't know. I guess yeah. I guess healing is that, but it also gives me, I feel like, stronger voice and more. It helps me normalize these things and feel more comfortable talking or discussing these things. Um, and and so this like when it comes to drawing, let me take a step back. Thinking about like when I first started, and like my background, is Christianity, and so when I wanted to get into figure drawing, I kept thinking, man, my mom's gonna hate this piece because because it wasn't even like real nudity. It's like maybe a shoulder. I don't know, or
Yeah, yeah.
it's not really really bad, or very like in your face or anything like that. And I had to work through like my discomfort because of kind of where I came up. Now it doesn't mean like I disregard like my beliefs, my faith, or anything like that. But it's really like why am I uncomfortable with this? You know, why am I hesitant to create something when the reality is that many this is not something new and it's not something that I'm doing in a sexual manner either. And I would say even the same thing with this piece that I included in the show, because it was I had to build up to making a piece with, and I don't think this one is like the worst piece ever. I mean, when it comes to like really, that's
Most
controversial.
intense or yeah, most
Yeah.
provocative.
But it took me I had to build up to being comfortable addressing an issue that's so personal and so like so well known in the Black community, but overlooked or what is it, dismissed or not believed in other communities. And it even could be people that maybe didn't grow up in this country, but when you come here, you are going to be identified as Black. People are going to say you're Black or Black American. And I've had friends from many places. Um, I've had friends that were not from this country that were like, oh, why are Black Americans so worried about? Are they still talking about racism? That's not a thing anymore. Like it wasn't. It was like kind of like get over it, And so and it wasn't coming from a place of like a malicious intent to like silence my voice or the Black American community's voice. But it's like again, like what are your experiences? Like your experiences haven't been that because you haven't been in this country and grown up and had to live in this place, this country to where they're so like I don't know, just like saturated with racism. So there's also these things that we know, but it's like you don't share, you don't talk about it. Now I don't know. I think that after 2020 with the Floyd murder and all the other murders that took, and it was just like in your face, we can't be like, oh no, that doesn't happen because it's very obvious that this does happen. So I think that also helped me to kind of have the confidence to address something that we all know because I wasn't so fearful of like, oh, am I going to get negative feedback? And I mean, as a as an artist, like when you're creating, like that's a piece of you that you're putting out there, and so you want people to love it, but for me, I still have the insecurity, I guess, of like, oh, they may not like it. Somebody may, maybe this wasn't good enough, and so with pieces that are more controversial, you're bound to get like rejection or negative feedback on it.
Yeah.
And I guess with this one, it's like I feel like I'm starting to push myself to address these issues that are closer to our hearts, that really need to be exposed and like discussed. So maybe there may be in the future something more controversial, but I think this is pretty mild. So
Yeah, well, I think that kind of what I'm hearing there a little bit is like a sense of responsibility too. Like it's like that, like not just like that it's an issue that's brushed aside, but it's also an issue that like you're not just painting like something that makes everybody happy or that's non-controversial. You're painting something that carries with it a lot of pain, or
yeah,
not painting, but you're creating something that carries with it a lot of pain, and that's a big responsibility beyond just like making something beautiful.
yeah,
And sometimes have, and it's not to say one is definitively more important than the other, but just to say that like there's a different level of weight that puts on you as an artist.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think for me, I think I want to make sure that I get it right too, and I want to make sure that I'm not potentially putting out something that could cause harm or like contradicting like a truth or whatever. So it is for I'm very like thoughtful when it comes to how I build out my pieces, because I guess there's this responsibility, that's a good word, responsibility of like I want to get it right and I want to as right as it can be because really it's just something that's in my mind that I'm that I'm putting on paper or a
yeah.
canvas. But at the end of it, it's like I want to leave it all on the table, and I want to do my best to portray the, or not portray it, but get this message across to the viewer.
Awesome. Um, well, I think we're trying to keep this relatively short and quick so that folks on the internet can absorb it without sitting down for like a full hour. But
Yeah.
I think I'm curious, like what are your next steps? Do you have new work you're working on? Is there another show, folks? Since we only have one more day tomorrow, come out.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, what are next steps for you? And what is next steps for your art?
Yeah, so I have one of my pieces and a few of my lino cuts and a show that's coming up on Saturday. And this is gonna stink because I cannot give you any information because I will have to I will have to find it, like the location and everything.
You're all
Um,
good.
but I have
We'll put it in the like description,
okay,
so you can
okay,
send it to
cool.
me afterwards.
So I have that show coming up, and again, it's going to be one of the piece I was saying talking about with like the reflecting in the mirror is going to be in there, and then three of my lino cuts are going to be in there,
Awesome.
and then I also submitted because the what Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club is going to be doing a show in December, and so I submitted two pieces for that show, and I believe they're going to be accepted, so I will be in that one as well, and I felt like I needed time to kind of build out my portfolio. And now I feel like I have enough pieces to where I can like start submitting them to different things. So as they come, I'll post them on Instagram. And so people can follow me. Um, And I don't know if you put that in there. I'll just say what my handle is. So it is this underscore is underscore Melinda Ruth, and that's all one word, no space. Well, you can't space on Instagram, but it's Melindaruth. So yeah, I would, yeah, that's the best place to really see because I'm fairly active on there and keep my stuff that I'm doing up.
Awesome. That's
Awesome.
perfect. That was my next question, was like, what is
Okay.
the Instagram? Um, well, cool. Thank you so much, Melinda, for joining. I guess I was gonna say us, but me here today. It's been great getting to talk with you a little bit about your work. And yeah, please apply to future shows.
Yeah,
Awesome
thank
stuff.
you so much for working with me. COVID tried to get me, but it didn't. And so,
I'm just glad you
and
did. It's like the best case scenario. If you got to get it or you got to test positive, you test positive, you don't feel bad, and then you still don't, you
yeah,
don't miss out on things.
yes, yeah, yeah. I was just like, I can't leave the house though, but I'm fine. So I appreciate you working with me, and
Yeah.
yeah, and thank you for letting me speak on your platform. It's an honor.
Oh yeah, no, the honor's all ours. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, great, thanks.